Hello, everyone. It's Brad Taylor, and I'm trying to finish my next book. And I've been inundated with comments, questions from friends, family, Facebook, email about what's going on with Iran. And so I jotted down some notes, and I'll try to go through those here. Four main points. The first thing I'll say is that it's destroyed my book. I would be Nostradamus if these guys had waited until my book came out. But unfortunately, they started early, and so now my book needs to have a massive amount of rewriting because what's going on now is kind of what I was putting in my book. I'm not going to go over the actual attack itself. You can go look that up about the missiles and the bombs and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to go over some points about what I think is going on. So the number one question I keep getting asked is, what do you think's happening next? And I think that all depends on what Iran perceives as our goals. What do they think that we want to do? Now, National Command Authority has positively stated that it's just the nuclear facilities that we're after. We have no desire for regime change. That has been specifically stated by the National Command Authority. But Israel, on the other hand, Netanyahu and others have said, we want to get rid of the regime, time for him to go. Let's assassinate the Ayatollah. And we have our own politicians doing the same thing. Most recently, my own Senator Lindsey Graham was on the news shows this morning spouting off about how the regime needs to be eliminated, and he was all behind Netanyahu and Israel for eliminating the regime. So which way Iran believes we're going on this is going to drive their response. Do they believe that the National Command Authority is telling the truth when they say it's just nuclear, or are they looking behind the scenes and saying, sounds like to me they're just making that up and they're coming for us? They don't want to go toe-to-toe with us. They value the regime more than they do their nuclear aspirations, and they know that if they do a massive attack against us, that we can wipe out the regime. But on the other hand, if they think that fight's coming anyway, if they think regime change is the goal, and the longer they wait, the more they get degraded on their offensive capability, if they just sit there, let their missiles getting blown up by Israel, when the regime change is coming, they're going to fight. I've heard mentioned, assassinating the Ayatollah is a panacea. We'll get rid of the Ayatollah and everything will be great. And that's not the case. The IRGC is the power base of that organization, and it's spread throughout the regime. If you want to get rid of them, it's air power alone is not going to do it. You're going to have to get on the ground and root them out. They have an iron grip on the population and will maintain it without assistance. We've seen this in the past. After the first Gulf War, Saddam Hussein, we didn't go into Baghdad. Saddam Hussein was still in power. We got him out of Kuwait. And he was a Sunni politician, a despot of a Shia population. We encouraged the Shia to rise up, throw out Saddam Hussein. And they did rise up. They said, we're getting rid of Saddam Hussein. And then we sat on the sidelines. Saddam Hussein annihilated him, and that was the end of that overthrow. The same thing will happen in Iran unless we help them. I'm going to give you two scenarios, a best case and a worst case scenario. I want you to understand that it could be a bazillion permutations in between. But the best case scenario, Iran takes this on the chin and de-escalates. We tell Israel to tone it down. You were going after the nuclear stuff. We got rid of the nuclear stuff. We're only after the nuclear stuff. And if Iran believes that, then they will de-escalate as well because they do not want to go toe-to-toe with us and lose the regime. Having said that, they are going to retaliate. There will be a retaliation. There's no way we can do all this to Iran and have them just sit back and say, okay, you did it. We quit. If it's going this route, I expect something like some piddling around the Straits of Hormuz, some mines being laid out there, maybe a rocket attack on al-Assad like they did after we killed Soleimani, something like that. But it won't be a massive attack. It's just them giving them enough credibility with their own population to say, look, we took it to the United States. That's a best case scenario. If they believe that it's just the nuclear sites themselves, then they'll be willing to tone it down. And we have to convince Israel they got to tone it down too. Worst case scenario, they think the regime's survival is at stake here. They don't believe anything we've said, and they think they got to use it or they're going to lose it. And the target set for us is rich. We have Al-Assad Air Base, as already mentioned, Erbil, we've got a lot of troops up there, Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the Fifth Fleet of the entire United States Navy's in Bahrain. All of these are within range of their mid-range missiles, not the long-range hypersonic they've been shooting at Israel, but within range of a bunch of missiles they haven't used yet, so they've got them. There's also Hormuz Strait that can close that, driving up oil prices. And there's also going to be, I would look for cyber attacks. Look for them to hit air traffic control, banking systems, energy grid. They have a really, really healthy cyber capability, and I would expect them to use it. I only believe they'll take this path if they believe what we said isn't true and that regime is at stake. And if they're going to go out, they might as well go out in a ball of fire. So it depends on which way they believe this is going to go. An indicator of this, from my mind, is going to be Hezbollah. Hezbollah has set this out. They're an Iranian proxy. Ever since Israel started bombing Iran, they have not done anything. Ever since the beepers have gone off and we assassinated Nasrallah, they've kind of sat there licking their wounds. If Iran is convinced a regime is the target, then Hezbollah will be convinced the regime is a target. And if the regime goes away, Hezbollah goes away, which means it's an existential fight for Hezbollah as well. So if they rejoin the fight and start fighting Israel, I would say that's an indicator that Iran doesn't believe that we're just after the nuclear stuff. There's a lot of permutations in between this, so I don't want to make this into a black and white. It's going to be either this or either that. It could go all different ways. It could start out one way and end up another way. I just wanted to give you, for simplicity's sake, those two extremes. Now, number two, did we destroy the nuke capability? You hear people talking about that all the time. Did we or didn't we? And it's really hard to say. Now, we dropped 14 MOPS on Fordo. Fordo's underneath the ground. With 14 of those bad boys on Fordo, I'm pretty sure that thing's destroyed. I think it's no longer serviceable. But Iran's a huge place. Did we get all of their centrifuges? We know Fordo, we know the other sites, but they could have hidden places all over the place where they have centrifuges. So it's hard to say if we really got rid of their nuclear capability. We know that right now they have 400 kilos of enriched uranium. It's almost weapons grade. So if they have any centrifuges, it'll take little time at all to get that to weapons grade. Now, did we get that 400 kilos of enriched uranium? Who knows? Could be on a truck right now. I'll tell you, if you read my next book, I'll tell you where it is. Anyway, it could be anywhere, and it's within a hair's breadth of being a nuclear weapon. So if we didn't take that out, they still have the capacity to use it and refine it into a nuclear weapon. More importantly, though, did we destroy their desire to make a bomb? That's what's really critical here. That, too, could go either way. On the one hand, they may have been waffling on whether they're going to do a bomb or not. They were just going to enrich uranium, and they haven't given the word to make the bomb yet. Now that we've attacked it and knocked out everything, and they have this 400 kilos, they may see it as in, okay, they expect us to build a bomb anyway. Let's get it up. That's the only thing that's going to save the regime, is to get an operational nuclear weapon. So it could have accelerated them building the bomb. On the other hand, they could say this whole nuke thing ain't working out. Let's go to the table after we fire some rockets here and there. Let's back down from this. It's hard to say where they'll go. One thing's for sure, their capability of enriching uranium or doing anything else has been set back, I would say, close to a decade to reconstitute all that with both the intelligence, the knowledge of the scientists we've assassinated, and the facilities. It's definitely been set back. All right, number three, was it legal? Boy, was that the talking point today. And once again, this all depends on who you talk to. So legally, there is a authorized use of military force from 2001, right after 9/11, which is still in place, that allows a president to go after anyone associated with 9/11. Specifically, all necessary appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks or harbored such groups and individuals. That has been in place since 2001. Iran has provably harbored the bin Laden family both before and after 9/11, so by the letter of the law, it can be justified. On the intent of the law, though, it's a little suspect. If you'd have told the architects of the AMF in 2001 that 25 years after 9/11 and 15 years after we killed Osama bin Laden, we were going to use that to strike nuclear facilities in Iran, I think they'd say, wait a minute, hold on a second, that's not what this thing is for. Having said that, this is nothing new. Biden used the AUMF to strike militias in Syria that were attacking U.S. soldiers. Obama used AUMF to strike Somali terrorists, a group that didn't even exist at 9/11. After 9/11, to kill al-Shabaab in Somalia, mainly because they said, we swear fealty to al-Qaeda, boom, you're on the target list. This is not something that Trump has invented. It's not something that he's doing something new. Presidents have done this since 9/11. Congress is bleeding right now about not being told, but I side with the president on this one. Telling Congress would be worse than using a signal chat to discuss it. Speaking of which, I was pretty harsh on the admin about that whole Signalgate thing, but I said over and over at the time that I'd rather them learn a lesson through embarrassment than blood, and it looks like that happened. This was absolute OPSEC, a pretty well-run operation from start to finish. So in my mind, the whole Signalgate thing, while egregious, at least taught some lessons that we're now using when rubber met the road and we really needed it, it worked out. All right, Ford, final. What do I think about this whole thing? People keep saying there was no imminent threat and the intelligence on the bomb hadn't changed and, we just tripped the trigger here. I disagree. There was an enormous change in intelligence on this whole thing. Not maybe with the bomb itself, but the landscape. With the Israeli strikes both against Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, remarkably changed the operational environment. There is no doubt that Iran was trying to build a bomb. It's just a fact. Most people don't know this, they have a nuclear reactor in Iran that is producing electricity. So they're saying they're doing all this for peaceful purposes. Well, they have a nuclear reactor. All the uranium they have generated from all of this stuff they're doing, none of that has gone to their peaceful nuclear reactor. Russia provides them the fuel for that. On top of that, there's no reason to enrich the uranium to the degree it has been enriched to weapons grade to use for civilian purposes. There's no peaceful reason to do that. The only reason to do it is to build a bomb. Whether that was coming in 2 years or 2 months, to me, it's kind of irrelevant. Once it's built, it's done. And having a country that's shown malicious actions on the world stage through Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, all those guys, that is not someone who should hold the power of nuclear capability. The bottom line is we were presented with a unique opportunity, zero threat, air defense is gone, limited risks. It was not present before. We had the capability of removing their ability to have a nuclear bomb. And we took it. And if we stop at the nuclear side, I think it was justified and worth the effort. I think that is my view. On the other hand, if we or Israel start feeling our oats and we think, let's get rid of the whole cancer, let's take the regime out, I think that would be a huge mistake. People like Lindsey Graham always look at the regime as an end state, but it's only half the equation. You get rid of the regime, there's got to be something that comes in behind it. And forever wars, if that's shown us anything, it's that we're really good at breaking stuff and very bad about putting it back together. Saddam Hussein is a good example. Saddam Hussein is a bad dude. He was a despot. He had all kinds of, evil intentions. But looking with 2020 hindsight, would you rather be dealing with Saddam Hussein and threatening with missiles to keep him in control? Or would you rather be dealing with ISIS, which is running around killing people all over the world and still trying to attack the United States? Because that's what we got out of the Iraq War, ISIS. Trying to conduct regime change in Iran, I think, would be a colossal mistake. There's nobody in the wings waiting to take over that's going to be sympathetic to our interest. Best case, it devolves into a cesspool like Libya, another regime change we did, which has now turned Libya into just a chaos of terrorist infrastructure. Worst case, the IRGC turns the whole place into a military dictatorship. It's no longer an Islamic Republic. It is just a straight-up military dictatorship. And that would require us to physically occupy a country of 90 million people to get rid of them. We could get something worse than what we have right now. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Take them or leave them. I think the strike was justified. If we stick with the nuclear sites, I think it was a good thing. If we go on for regime change, I think we are going to regret it for years. Thank you for your time.